Welcome to another story of the Willem Johannes, one that turned out to be seriously challenging, crossing from Scheveningen to the UK 146 miles in 25 hours, and we ended up in Lowestoft and we had a bit of a panicky situation. Our trip starts first with a slow weekend crossing from the harbour of Monnikendam to the saltwater port of Scheveningen with a stopover at Seaport IJmuiden. This journey in lovely weather was done with close friends. A lovely weekend trip that allowed us to test both gear and crew, and that turned out to be useful. While the sun and wind were kind and sweet, we put up the Genoa. For this we used the main halyard of the highest mast. This same halyard we used to hoist ourselves in case of maintenance and trouble. Half an hour into the wonderful sail at sea with 10 knots of wind, snap! Off goes the 125 square meter into the sea over our port side. Lucky we were able to hoist the sail back in quickly, roll out the Genoa again and continue the journey to Scheveningen. Here we investigate what happened and put the sail out to dry. We nearly lost the other halyard as we were putting the sail out to dry. We were able to get it back in with the help of some cutlery. A week later we set sail for England. Now our plan was to sail as far west as possible towards the English coast, aiming for the Harwich region. But with the persistent south weatherly winds, it meant regular tacking and some serious patience. The days ahead promised no improvement, and we are met by Rob, who is crossing our dog Riff by car to clear customs, formerly in England. He will be joining us for a week of sailing. The wind was no joke. It was steady and strong between the 15 and 25 knots, and we were going for a reaching course. For those who don't know, the North Sea is one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. So we were quite busy dodging oil riggings, wind farms, traffic, and of course some sandbanks here and there. Now, of course, with the good navigation gear, things were a little bit easier than it was before. We only needed the engine for about 2 hours in total, which makes us very happy. But the constant high speeds and focus made this a demanding trip, both physically and mentally. Now, to stay sharp, we switched our watch system to 2 to 3 hours on or off, depending on how tired we each felt. So at 2 a.m. we tacked because the wind shifted a bit more westerly, perfect for aiming a bit further south along the English coast. Then, around 6 a.m. we tacked again as the wind veered south, planning one last tack downwind. But just then we ran into trouble. As Robin went to the bathroom, he noticed water leaking from the shower, flooding the gangway and the cabin floor. Oi! Lucky for us, the water wasn't gushing in by the galleons, and even though the ship was heeling 20 degrees, we used both the macerator and the water vacuum to flush out as much water as we could. And then, of course, we did the taste test. Is it salt or sweet water? It was salt. So I immediately started checking the valves, and they were dry, so that's a good thing. With adrenaline pumping, we pieced it together. One of the 2 outlets of our grey water tank must have been turned into an inlet, probably because the non-return valve failed. Not ideal, but fixable. We simply closed the main valve, and that appeared to be enough to stop the water coming into the grey water tank and flooding the shower when full. Given the situation, we adjusted our course to Lowestoft, and this is a harbour you can sail into at any time of a tide. Here we could safely inspect and clean the floor. So there you have it, 25 hours of wind and waves, a reaching course, and a plumbing situation that did require all of our attention. Never a dull moment on board. When Rob and Riff arrive later that evening, we have dinner and do a short walk around the industrial town. Where we're going?
Naar buiten.
In English, please.
To the sea. We go to the sea.
Yeah, that's good information. That's good information indeed.
And then we go underneath the bridge, 1, and then we have bridge 2. So 2 bridges.
His English is really perfect. So we're actually going to the River Orr, and so that's indeed first out to sea. Intelligent answer. First we go through the bridge. So, and the wind is a northerly, about 20 knots. So we'll have a nice sail. We just put the Genoa up because we can't go too fast. We get there before high water. So I'll keep you posted.
500 metres to seaward, over.
Yes, fully understood, but we are approaching the River Aldi and going inland in half an hour.
Thank you very much for your information, sir. You have a good watch, and thank you for your cooperation.
Same to you.
Entering the river at upcoming tide proved to be quite a narrow piece of steering. We put an anchor close to the town and stay on board a few hours to make sure the anchor holds, before we take out riff for a walk ashore. Jouw juk. After our evening game, Rob checks the weather and sees bad weather moving in our way far more quickly than anticipated. Thunder and gusts of wind up to 35 knots. Shortly thereafter, our anchor alarm sounds. We are off anchor and very close to shallow waters. We have to act quickly. As it is still high water, but only just, we want to put up more anchor as we want to drift over that shallow, swing her rear around to deeper water using both engine and sail. Alas, we run into a natural buoy. It's like a big twig, and that blocks the anchor. We have no alternative but to go back and hope we can still cross the shallow and bring in the anchor. Alas, we are stuck in the mud. Lucky for us, we're closing to spring tide the next day, so we're confident to get loose the next tide. All the same, we want to call in some local help, so we make contact with Matt. He's the harbour master of Orford. Even though it's his day off, he jumps into the boat and comes to us to see if he can help out, perhaps pull or tug, whatever. Now, even before high tide, Dylan Johannes comes loose, and Matt shows us a better spot further down the river with better holding ground for our anchor. Then Rob, Riff and I are off to shore to visit the town and do some groceries. Next on our list is a 24 sail to Pinmill, which is on the River Orwell, the entrance of Harwich. Now, it is said you cannot go to the Orwell River without going for a beer at Pinmill at the Butt and Oyster. So we put in anchor close to the Pinmill, take our dinghy to shore and walk the forest walk before having our beer at the Butt and Oyster. Now we can safely continue the journey to the wonderful 5-anchor harbour of Ipswich and spend some time there, where we will also add another crew member for a few days, Rob's partner Luke. And there we are, safely in the lock. By the way, the sail from the anchorage near Pinmill was only about 3 or 4 miles, I think. So it's a very short sail in very warm weather. What is very convenient is that it's a floating jetty in this lock, which is always nice, you know. So we came up, how much higher, Rob?
I'm not sure.
Meter and a half?
A meter or something? Yeah. 1.5?
At least, I think. So here's the harbour, and we have been assigned Echo Hammerhead. So that means jetty Echo, and then the Hammerhead side it basically says it all, doesn't it? A long jetty, yay! Now, through the centuries, Ipswich grew into a thriving centre of weaving, shipbuilding and trade. It was granted royal charter in 1200, cementing its importance in medieval England. The town's rich past is still visible today, from the ancient churches and grand gateways to the stories of famous locals like Cardinal Thomas Wolsey and singer Ed Sheeran. Ipswich isn't just a town, it's a living tapestry of English history. The next day, in extremely warm weather, we make a 25-mile journey back through the loch and on the River Orwell to another river, Deben. Our destination, Woodbridge. Well, Deben River in particular has many moorings to meander through with the Willem Johannes. We are quite a sightseeing. Woodbridge is a place where the past truly comes alive. There's one gem that stands out above all, the iconic Woodbridge tide mill. Perched on the banks of the River Deben, the tide mill is a marvel of ingenuity and endurance. First recorded in 1170, this mill harnessed the power of the tides for over 800 years, grinding grain and supporting the local community. It's one of the very few working tide mills left in the UK, and its story is woven into the fabric of Woodbridge itself.
let op, dat gaat niet. Dan heb ik het... Oh, te diep. Oh, gaan we weer terug. Oh, wat is dit leuk. Let op, dat gaat weer niet.
We truly enjoyed our stay here, and Robin was able to save the drone, which was attacked by birds. Now the warm weather was easily regulated thanks to the Evo shirts we recently obtained by Musto. They are very heat regulating, they are very light and comfortable in wearing, and do provide us with some extra UV protections. As Rob and Luke leave the following day, we turn our bow to our next destination in England. Will it be panicky or boring? A little bit of both, maybe?
Follow our stories on Facebook and Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.